Migration.
The new
Our
migration strategy.
migration program.
Migration visas.
Australia Migration Talks.
Hello everyone, I'm Alex. Today we are talking about a question that many student visa appeal applicants are worried about. Now the student visa appeals do not have a hearing. Does that mean the chance of success is lower? After a student visa refusal, many applicants lodge an appeal with the ART. In the past, many people thought that after lodging an appeal, there would always be a hearing. They believed they would have a chance to explain in person why they wanted to study the course and why the previous refusal reasons were not correct. But now, student visa appeals do not have a hearing. The case is basically assessed on written materials. Many applicants become very nervous. They may think, if I cannot explain myself in person, does that make the case harder? Will the tribunal fail to understand my situation? Does no hearing mean my chance is much lower? So is that really the case? Today we have Jasmine with us again. Jasmine is a highly experienced migration agent. She has nearly 20 years of experience in the migration industry and specializes in complex visa matters, refusals, cancellations, appeals, character-related cases, health-related cases, and other difficult migration matters. Jasmine, thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, Alex.
Many student visa applicants used to place their hope on the hearing. They thought they could submit some materials first and then slowly explain everything at the hearing. But now that student visa appeals do not have a hearing, is that kind of thinking dangerous?
Yes, very dangerous. Because now there is no hearing, applicants can no longer think, I will explain it later. Your opportunity to explain is basically in the written materials you submit. If your materials do not explain the issues clearly, the tribunal will not automatically fill in the gaps for you. They will not sit there and slowly ask you questions, so you can explain things step by step. So after student visa appeals moved away from hearings, the key point is not simply that the chance is necessarily lower. The key point is that the importance of written materials has been magnified.
So written materials have now become the applicant's main way of presenting the case.
Yes. Without a hearing, what the tribunal sees is the documents, statements, evidence, and explanations you submit. Whatever you want the tribunal to understand must be clearly explained in the materials. You cannot just write, I genuinely want to study. You cannot just submit very general materials. And you cannot simply repeat what was already submitted in the original application, because the application has already been refused. At the appeal stage, the question is why the decision maker was not convinced before. Which part of your study plan was not clearly explained? Why is your course choice reasonable? What is the connection between your background and this course? Why is your future plan credible? All of these points must be addressed in the written materials.
So a student visa appeal is not just about submitting the same materials again.
No. Many people think that an appeal is just about adding a few more documents or slightly changing the original statement. But what a student visa appeal really requires is a complete reassessment of the original application. Why did the original application fail to convince the decision maker? Was the course logic unclear? Was the personal background not properly explained? Was the future plan too empty? Were there contradictions between the materials? These issues must be identified first. Then you decide how the written submissions should be prepared, what evidence should be added, and where the explanations should be placed. If you simply repackage the original materials, then you are basically waiting for the ART member to refuse the case.
Now that there is no hearing, what is the biggest impact on applicants?
The biggest impact is that you cannot rely on performing well in person. In the past, some applicants thought, my English is okay, I can explain it myself at the hearing. Or they thought, when the tribunal asks me questions, I will answer them then. But now that step is no longer there. So you cannot rely on your performance at the hearing to fix gaps in the materials. Anything that is not clearly explained in the materials may never have another chance to be explained. That said, from our perspective, when handling cases, even when student visa appeals used to have hearings, we still place the main focus on the written materials. If the materials were well prepared, the hearing would be much easier. We had many cases before where the materials were prepared well, and the AAT, which is now the ART, actively asked to proceed without a hearing and remitted the matter directly back to the department for reconsideration.
In the current situation, what kind of materials are most likely to cause problems?
The most common problem is materials that look long but are actually empty. For example, a statement may be many pages long, but it keeps repeating things like, I like Australian education, I want to improve myself, I will have better career development in the future, I will comply with my visa conditions. These statements are not wrong, but they do not solve the problem. What the tribunal really needs to see is why those statements are credible when applied to you. What is your past experience? Why are you choosing this course now? What is the connection between this course and your background? How exactly will you use this course after graduation? What is the connection between your family, work, career direction, and this study plan? If these questions are not clearly answered, then even a very long statement may not be useful.
So it is not about writing more, it is about answering the right questions.
Yes, student visa appeal materials are not stronger just because there are more of them. They need to be targeted. If the core issue behind the refusal is not answered, even a thick bundle of documents may not help. Some applicants submit many things, but the materials do not hit the real issue. Some statements look emotional, but they do not explain what the decision maker was actually concerned about. That is why student visa appeals cannot rely on templates. Of course, student visa applications themselves should not rely on templates either.
Many people look for student visa statement templates online, or they use materials from other successful cases as a reference. Why is that risky?
Because every refusal has different reasons behind it. Even if they are all student visa refusals, one person may have a course choice issue. Another person may have a background inconsistency. Another person may have unclear financial source issues. Another person may have an unconvincing future plan. Another person may have concerns arising from their previous study history in Australia. If you use someone else's template, it may look complete, but it may not answer your own problem. Once the direction of the materials is wrong, it becomes even more dangerous because you no longer have the opportunity to correct that direction in person.
So now that student visa appeals do not have hearings, it does not mean there is no chance. But applicants can no longer use the old mindset of, I will submit something first and explain later.
Exactly. No hearing does not mean no chance, but it does mean that you must prepare your written materials much more carefully. You need to identify the real issues behind the refusal. Then, you need to use the materials to clearly explain your study logic, your personal background, and your future plan. This is not about writing a beautiful essay. It is about helping the tribunal understand why this study arrangement is reasonable for this applicant.
If an applicant is already at the student visa appeal stage, what should they do first?
The first step is not to look only at the refusal reasons. You need to completely reassess the entire student visa application, including all materials that were previously submitted. The real problem may not only be in the refusal letter. The refusal letter sets out the result, but the problem may be hidden in the materials you previously submitted. For example, how was your study plan written? How was the course choice explained? Was your work experience clearly explained? Was your future plan too empty? Were there contradictions between the materials? All of these things need to be reassessed.
This is similar to the logic we have discussed in previous episodes. After a refusal, it is not about immediately adding more documents. It is about first understanding where the real problem is.
Yes, especially now that student visa appeals do not have hearings. You cannot randomly add materials. You need to first understand where the issue is, so you know how to explain it. If the issue is unclear course logic, then you need to address the course logic. If the issue is an inconsistent background, then you need to explain the background properly. If the issue is an unconvincing future plan, then you need to make the plan specific. Do not mix everything together.
What is the one sentence you most want to remind student visa appeal applicants today?
Your materials are your voice. If your materials do not explain the problem clearly, the tribunal will not automatically explain it for you.
Good. Let's summarize today's episode. Now that student visa appeals do not have hearings, many applicants worry that their chance is lower. This is not a simple yes or no question, but one thing is clear. Without a hearing, written materials become extremely important.
Yes, no hearing does not mean no chance, but it does mean that your explanation, evidence, and logic must all be completed in the written materials. The most important part of a student visa appeal is not making the document bundle thicker. It is identifying the real issue behind the refusal and then using the materials to explain your study arrangement clearly.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Alex.
And thank you everyone for listening. If you are working on a student visa appeal, remember this. No hearing does not mean no chance, but your materials must speak for you first. I'm Alex. See you next time.